Well, welcome back to another bulb log video diary garden walk. It's been an extraordinary period of weather. We've had the hottest, driest month or 6 weeks that have ever been recorded. Very unusual, and you see the effects in the garden. I'm looking across at one of the alpine beds, and I'll go around the garden and I'll finish up there, so hang about and we'll look at some of the phloxes and daphnes that are up there later. But I really wanted to show you and share how the heat and the dryness has affected the garden. It's pushed much of the bulbs and the early plants back a bit earlier than they would have. So all the Eranthus and Corydalis have gone down quickly. The erythroniums, the flowers went over a bit earlier. The scarlet tulips you see in there, Tulipa sprengeri, one of the latest of the tulips to flower. Quite happy in shade because it's a woodland bulb. Deep in there you can also see the white flowers of Peony Imodii. A beautiful Himalayan peony. But as we go around, this is the season of the self-seeders really. The plants that just appear, they come in the garden. So we've got this Boraginaceae. Many of you will know this as it appears in your garden as a volunteer, and it's the pentaglottis. I think they call it the green alkanet or something. It's got these lovely blue flowers. You can pull it off. It's got a fairly stout blackish root, and if you just pull the top off, it's like so many of these plants, it will just come back up in increasing numbers from every bit of the root. But it sprawls about, and I don't know, I quite like it. It's sitting there behind, you can see the crinodendron beside the bird feeders up there. Crinodendron looking quite good. And of course the aquilegius and the bluebells. Again, they seed around, although we limit their seeding by removing the stems. We don't want them to go absolutely crazy, but we do want to keep them in certain places. So it's a case of editing the garden, editing what's allowed to grow and seed. And of course the yellow poppy. I still know it as Meconopsis cambrica, but of course now it's Papaver cambricum. They've dumped it out of Meconopsis. But the range of aquilegias, and down below yet to come, some of the later summer flowering herbs, they'll keep coming up. But in these beds that have been so full of early bulbs, they've all gone down quickly. How that will affect them next year, I'm not sure. I hope it won't interrupt their flowering so profusely, but only time will tell. But down there we can see everything from the wild garlic to the alliums and the silene, the red campion, another common roadside plant. You see it widely spread on roadsides and hedgerows and woodland edges. And they're great to come into these beds once all the early stuff's gone down. And before this bed's also full of arisemas, which are going to be a lot slower to come through the ground now because there's no moisture in there. Here the ovularias of all but gone over. You can just see the odd flower still there. But this clump's seeding itself around. Lilies coming, summer flowering lilies, so Lilium Pyrenai comes over there. And I see there the leaves of Anthriscus, the cow parsley. It's in flower further round, but I've been planting it around for quite a few years now. And if I spin round here, we've got the shuttlecock ferns, again starting to show the signs of the dryness. And above it, a tall Rogersea. The Dicentrus that took over from the snowdrops and the erythroniums and the trilliums. You can see the trilliums still there, hanging on their flowers. Lilium martigans pushing up through. And just the lovely effect of the grasses and the aquilegias. None of them tied upright. I don't like stakes in a garden, really. I don't like things being too bound up. So if they flop over, they flop over. And then we come up to this area where for years I've spent most of my time doing any kind of weeding in the garden here. You can see I did a wee bit here the other day and cleared this bit here, because I kind of want to keep a bit of history, but more and more I'm starting to learn or realise that I shouldn't be trying to fight nature. I should work with it and maybe just be a bit less intense in my editing. So I'm kind of only editing out anything that comes in that would be too vigorous or inappropriate. So for instance, I have to pull out one of the biggest problems here is coming from the birch trees, is the birch seedlings. We really can't allow them because we've probably got enough trees as it is. Down there are lovely little flocks, because I've thrown all sorts of seedlings around here. Here's a seedling off of Corydalis Creighton Blue. I see around here is a cutting I put in of the Cogenes grandiceps, the New Zealand Edelweiss. It's got that felty flower like it's made of fabric. Grasses and trilliums, pulsatillus, more of the silene. Orchids. We've been fighting with the plague that hits these kind of orchids for a few years now, where the leaves turn brown and black and they die off. But I've just tried to work on the principle that just let them seed around and they'll settle. We'll maybe get a strain that's resistant, or the pathogen that's causing the problem will run out of hosts and die off and disappear for a few years. But I think these are cyclical. It will come back again, I have no doubt. But in the meantime, the numbers of the orchids are building up. That's the Lysomachia paradisiformis. It's a cutting I took off one of our other plants and moved into the sunshine. But this is the path that was covered in erythroniums. And of course they've all gone over into seed. And again, I used to keep everything else out, but really I'm on pushing the experiment of the garden to see what happens if I just let more grow. We've got the lily of the valley scattering about here. under the rhododendrons. And as I come up, this great mass underneath the rhododendrons up here started out as a single plant that I grew. And you can see how it's spread. It's like, oh, there we go, that's perfect. Because I wanted to show you what it does. So, this is I'll lay it out on the wall here. This is Smilacina stellata because of the starry little flowers on the top. It's a very elegant leaf shape with these alternate leaves. But what it does is it grows, typically in the fashion of a woodlander, it grows from a creeping rhizome. And then it sends up another stem, and then the rhizome continues. So it spreads. So a warning, there's the lead. The white bit's the new rhizome that will push out. And I'm kind of trying to stop it coming out completely into the path. But it's been a very useful plant to give us ground cover under this large rhododendrons that are above my head. And the thing about it is, under there, it grows up so it doesn't smother the erythroniums and the anemones and the other early plants that are underneath it. It grows up and grows above them rather than smothering them. So that was Smilacina stellata. It's an introduced plant. It's come from the, I think it's the northwest Pacific coast of America. And a lot of the plants that grow over there grow well in our garden. Like the dicentra that runs everywhere as well. So in a way here you have two of these spreading plants that will do well and spread out in woodland and shade, growing together. So the Smilacina makes the dicentra. You can see here the seed stems of all the erythroniums. Gallium odoratum creeping out and running about underneath, another of the spreading plants, much lower, much less dominant than the Smilacina and the dicentra. More Aquilegias. Now I just fight my way in here a wee bit. We've got more of the Peony Emodii. And here's Peony Woodwardii. Self-seeding, so you've got different shades. There's very dark ones, there's paler ones. And they're allowed to self-seed around as well. Now, I'm afraid I can't tell you the name of this. I have no idea what it is. I haven't researched it. I grew it from seed. And it's quite a tall. I hope it's herbaceous, because it's been coming back for a few years, building up, but I hope it's just not a biannual or similar, and I hope it's not just going to die, but it's a pretty enough robust plant. And I can't fully remember. I have a vague recollection it came from seed that I ordered from one of the Gothenburg expeditions, so it could be anywhere that it's come from. But if anyone knows what it is or can help me or give me a guide, please leave a note, because I'd love to. It'll save me having to work for hours researching. And again, under normal conditions, a lot of the green, the foliage you see that's collapsed, would still be going on for another few weeks yet in a slower transition to the next phase. But because of this exceptional hot, dry weather, it's just gone whoomp. Another effect the hot, dry weather as had as with the Aracema wilsoni. The flowers have come up well in advance of the leaves. The leaves are very slowly pushing through because it's so dry. So I love this plant, and it's got big statuesque leaves. But the leaves in a typical wet spring, the leaves come up quite quickly and overtop the flowers. But at the moment the flowers are looking real good. The wee Geranium Robertianums and Corydalis Creighton purple in there. The first of the Doronicums looking a bit sorry for themselves because of the lack of rain. Now, I don't like watering in the general garden. I do water in the troughs and the containers, but I don't like to start watering too much in the general garden because the plants become reliant. What I want them to do is use their own roots and go and search for the moisture deep down. And if you keep watering them, you just encourage the roots to get lazy and stay near the surface. And they'll happily take the moisture, what little moisture you give them, but it's not a good long-term solution. The idea is to build resilience into the plants, in the plants you select, and raise them from seed so you get a natural selection to your garden. But the Jeffersonias look like the seed pods are starting to swell, so hopefully we'll get some nice seed. But the self-seeders, the Aquilegias are self-seeded, the yellow poppies are self-seeded, the Camasias are all self-seeded, the Acer is a self-seeded. It's come down from these taller acers. As I come round, you can see way above my head there, the beautiful laburnum. And the rhododendron Fortunii there, the flowers all starting to scrumble up because of the lack of moisture again. Down here in the miniature bed, just like the Smilacina over there runs about, and we use here in the smaller beds with the tiny plants this wee Myanthemum bifolium, and this is the Yakushimena form, so it stays very compact. Here it's growing with this other leaf here, that's Cornus suecica, which is a native of the far north, including Scotland, but sadly it's very shy flowering in the garden. We don't often get much in the way of flowers. And then coming round to this bed here, I think I spoke about it, certainly written about it, thinking of cutting it further back to rejuvenate all these dwarf rhododendrons. When you cut them back, you will get, and this one I did a large chunk of this one a few years ago, and you can see the regrowth. So what I've done is I've cut all this stuff off and opened it up, and I left that one. I think that's Marasi or Sarlet. What I'm going to do is I was just enjoying their flowers, and as soon as their flowers start to fade, they'll get cut down to low level, and it'll change this section of the garden again, but it will open it up, and it will give me space. I can always plant other things in there as well, or just let other things seed in. But I'm fairly confident that the majority of these rhododendrons will all regrow. I'll fight my way through. I'm going to be quiet a minute and see if you can hear the bees on the laburnum. Over the traffic. in the distance. Of course, the bonsai pots, these are some of the ones that I do need to water to try and keep going. Although I must say that the pines, once they're established in pots, and they're very resilient. They're the plants that can really tough it out in the worst of weather. Rhododendron decorum. These big rhododendrons are in their off year. They flower really superbly every second year, and then less so in the alternates. Beautifully scented. But what you see in there, those two sort of great stems, are not one plant. It's two seedlings I planted out side by side. Here's some Crichton purple here, looking less purple in the dry shade here than it does when it's in good light. Another rhododendron seedling is going in there. To say, the trilliums and everything looking a bit shocked by the weather, as well they might be, because I mean we are. This is not what we normally expect at all. But of course, when we garden, the one thing you can't do is move your garden. I'm just seeing here under the leaf the flowers of the podophyllum. You see the big podophyllum peltatum, the flowers are just starting to come out. But again, even it's flopping. The veratrum's starting to push up into flowers, which is very early for it. And again, I would suspect that's the heat and the dry. But as I come through the one thing with giving the ground cover of the corydalis and everything, it stops any sunlight hitting the soil, and it cuts down the evaporation rate, which means what moisture is in there can be used by the plants. And anything that transpires, the transpiration, can recycle, like under its own little, with the foliage cover acting almost like a cloud layer. So the moisture can almost be a bit recycled. So covering the ground is not only decorative, it's practical. Fritillaria kamchatensis. This is the Alaskan form from North America, rather than the Asian form, which we also have, but I'm not sure that it's in flower at the moment. Wee dogs barking next door. We've got new neighbours just moved in next door, and they've got a couple of wee dogs that are still getting used to their new surroundings. Various epimediums around the garden as well. Nah, the camera's not. But you can see how it's very difficult. You can't see the ground, you can't see the earth, so it does reduce the evaporation. Up here, some of the cow parsleys, Anthruscus. It's come up. You can see the greenfly, covered in greenfly. I don't worry about greenfly on these sorts of plants. I used to be paranoid about it in the bulb houses because it could spread virus, but out here the greenfly have just come at the very time that the wee birds are nesting and looking for food to feed their chicks, and they'll come and eat that. And there's ladybirds about as well. I've seen quite a few of them, so it's all part of nature's cycle. A good biodiverse garden will be good for everything. So I've been really pleased to see. I've been watching just a bit of the coverage of Chelsea on the TV, and apart from getting annoyed by the repetitiveness of it and how much they're not showing us, I've been pleased to see that more and more gardens looking a bit wild and nature-like. It's becoming more and more a trend, and there's lots of cow parsley being used and planted, which is good because we should be using more of these plants in our garden. So we shouldn't just be going for the likes of the rare sort of unusual from far off countries like Peony Emodii here again, or the Tulip Asprenger I see in there. We should be using the ordinary ones, the ones that grow in our own hedgerows and areas. Also, they're the ones that are resilient to this weather. I see here another slightly going over Diasporum. I think that's Smithy. I always confuse the two Diasporums. They're easier told later. But the erythronium beds that were so colourful before, look at them, all collapsed, and with some of them there's not a lot of seed on some of these because they collapsed almost before they got a chance to complete their seed process. And then the raised bed we've got, you can see the crocus leaves have gone down, the wee phloxes that overhang the edge. Around here there's the oxalis, various oxalis. Up here from North America, the Petrophytum Hendersonii. Seem to be enjoying the heat, and one plant that's doing better than it has for a while in this heat is this wee white Daphne. Can't remember its name. We were given it as a present from, I think it was Ian Christie that gave us it. It was either Ian or Cyril Lafong, and it may have been either of those, but can't recall its name. But it's one of the few Daphnes that has survived a longer term in our garden, so it's been there for probably 10 years. Phlox Douglasii. Again, these are phloxes do well in the hot, dry weather, and they don't always do so well with us. So it's a process of editing the garden when you're allowing things to self-seed. Edit out what's not appropriate. Like, I mean, I'm seeing here, here we have, there's lots of things might be there, but this is a rosebay willow herb that's seeded in. I don't want that there. It's magnificent a plant it is, but I'm not particularly wanting it in there. Nor I see also sorbus tree seedlings there, so I'll need to get them out. But the papaver, the wee Mechanops, the wee Welsh poppy, it's fine. I'm happy with it. As I am with these ones up here that are filling this bed in the meantime, having early bulbs gone down, and before the Cyananthus gets going and comes out, the Cyananthus microphyllus not growing so enthusiastically because of the dryness. A wee native trough of native plants, including orchids. And so the garden's a mixture of the alpine species, the small plants that start in the garden in the troughs and raised beds, and then you go off to the wilderness, the wilds, of the woodland with the rhododendrons and all the woodland plantings in the lower levels. So thanks again for your company. I'll be back again when there's something else, or another update later. But in the meantime I need to get back. One of the jobs I have been doing is, with this tray filled with water, is struggling to lift actually some of these bigger bonsais because they're pretty heavy, and give them a really good soak immersed in water, and do that the forecast is for rain to come tomorrow, so hopefully it will come, which will mean I don't have to be hauling watering cans around the place. So thanks for being with me, as I say, and I'll see you again soon. In the meantime, I hope your garden's surviving the drought or whatever the weather is throwing at you. And if it's not, learn from it and adapt your garden to the conditions that are changing all the time. These new conditions are coming with global warming, and some of the plants that we have grown so well may no longer grow for us. But that will mean there'll be opportunities from other plants that will grow. There's always more plants out there. We just need to go and find them and get the appropriate ones. So thanks very much. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next time.